All right, we are back with another Q&A part, maybe 12, I think this is, but we're part 12, so we're going to go do our Q&A. And if you have any more questions again, put them below. I'll add them to the end of the list and we'll continue this Q&A forever. Or I'll finish it and I won't do any more for another year or so. So yeah, let's see. We're hop right into these. We've got Jolly Good is back again with more questions, and this time a lot of questions. So we're gonna dig on into them. So let's see. Okay, question one: have you beaten any of the optional bosses for Digital Devil Saga 1, including the Demi Fiend from Nocturne? Digital Devil Saga 2 and Nocturne because they have a lot of them, and I think 10 bosses each game. I think I'm pretty sure I did all of them. Digital Devil Saga is like kind of like there's moves and there's skills in the game you can get that make it broken. Like once you get the that I don't remember the name of the skill, but the skill that doubles your attacks, like it doubles the amount of like the little squares you get in the little diamond things you get in the corner for the press turn system. Like once you get that, you can like beat basically anything in one turn. It's I mean you can beat like any of the optional bosses in like one turn essentially. It's not it's so broken that like you can't lose. Like once you get you use it and then you have like 10 triangle 10 diamonds, or it's like squares but they're rotated so it's diamonds in the for the press turn system. You just and then it's like 10 of those equals like if you do attacks that do crits or hit weaknesses, you got like 20 attacks. You're never gonna lose on that. You just can't. Like even if you make it, even if you don't do it on the first turn, like I couldn't see you losing on the second turn. It's just like it's almost impossible. So yeah, it's really Digital Devil Saga's bosses are get really easy. I mean, the optional bosses, like it just gets. I mean, they're there and they're like it seems difficult if you don't have the right skills, and they probably are. But like if once you have the right skills, like you can just run through everything in that game. Um, so yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure I beat all of them. I'm not 100% sure because there might have been some that I just didn't find because I didn't use a guide or anything. But I remember fighting a lot of extra bosses. So, but I might not have done all of them in each game. I should probably just look at a guide and go back and do that. But like, it seems pointless because, you know, once you have the right skills, you're just unstoppable. Um, let's see, what kind of horror authors do you enjoy other than H.P. Lovecraft? Well, H.P. Lovecraft, but I like a lot of the kind of Lovecraft circle dudes too. So like the later guy, like Robert Bloch, who wrote Psycho, but like Clark Ashton Smith is another guy I like. Robert Howard doesn't. I mean, he wrote Conan, and usually you wouldn't associate Conan with horror, but Conan is essentially like in the same world as like Cthulhu is. There's lots of crossover there. But also he wrote. I mean, Robert Howard wrote actual like kind of Lovecraftian stories too. I mean, there's like a whole collection of his stuff. I mean, he wrote other stuff like boxing stories too. It's like totally unrelated, but he did horror. Um, I'm trying to think of who else I really like. I should just look at my bookshelf. I can't see anything on my bookshelf. Um, okay, I'm looking at this and I see I have a lot of Richard Matheson books. And I really like Richard Matheson, but mostly because of the Twilight Zone stuff. But he has a bunch of other stuff that he wrote besides Twilight Zone episodes. I mean, I think I want to. I mean, if you've ever seen I Am Legend, it's written by Richard Matheson. I mean, if you've seen just read the book. Really, I mean, if you've seen I Am Legend, the movie with Will Smith, it's terrible. I mean, the ending basically destroys the concept of the movie. Um, It's the dumbest ending for anything. It like makes the whole movie pointless. And this is either ending, either even the special ending, the one that they didn't use, like the alternate ending, make it's stupid. It doesn't match the actual story of the story. Like if you watch the original, like The Last Man on Earth with Vincent Price, which is based on the same source material, it's easily the better story. The movie is so. But Richard Matheson wrote that, and he wrote like those lots of the famous kind of Twilight Zone episodes where it's like, you know, the gremlin on the side of the plane, stuff like that. It's pretty easy to pick those out. Another guy who wrote stuff for the Twilight Zone that I really like is Richard Beaumont, who he's not as famous, but he did write one of my favorite episodes of the Twilight Zone, which is oh shit, I can't remember the name now. It's what is it? Damn it, it's the episode where the guy like goes into the monastery and he finds like the monastery is holding some dude prisoner, and he thinks like, what the hell is this queer monastery doing? Like, what are they doing with all this weird like keeping this guy prisoner? He seems like a good guy, so like he lets him out and it ends up being the devil. um that story is like an example of kind of the Beaumont stuff. Charles Beaumont. Did I say Richard Beaumont earlier? Fuck. Charles Beaumont. Um, I like him. I'm trying to think of some other people that I enjoy that are horror writers. Um, let's look back on the shelf. See what we got here. Um, oh, I guess like Ramsey Campbell, who is still alive. Like, I actually saw him at Necronomicon last year. I didn't talk to him, but I saw him. I was sort of sitting near him. Um, I guess like Thomas Ligotti is another one that's pretty popular now. I mean, I haven't read much by him though. I feel like I should read more, but what I because what I read was good, and I like his stuff. I should just get his book, his one of the collections or whatever. Um, yeah, from my shelf, from looking from here, I don't have many other examples, but like, I've read stuff. I mean, I really like Clive Barker, but he doesn't really write any books anymore. Um, Apparently, like his latest book is like entirely ghost written by his editor. So, and it would make so much sense because like if anybody read the Scarlet Gospels, which is like Clive Barker's latest book, it's really not like a Clive Barker book. It doesn't feel like a Clive Barker book. The tone of it is all wrong. Like the characters are all wrong. It doesn't feel like it's a Clive Barker book. It feels like someone is writing Clive Barker fan fiction. So I don't know. Maybe he's just lost his touch, or the rumor that his editor is the person who wrote it makes a whole lot of sense. But and like I've read Stephen King books and stuff, and like I've read a good chunk of Stephen King stuff. Like I don't think he's bad. But I tend to not read just horror. I tend to read a lot of different stuff. I read a lot of sci-fi. Not a lot. I wouldn't say a lot, but I've read. I read like some. I've pretty much read all of the Philip K. Dick stuff, and um, Robert Heinlein I really like. I've read Dune. Dune is like a series that like if you really like space politics, like it's a really and like crazy new religions or whatever. It's a really good book, but like it takes a lot out of you to read those all in like consecutively, which was what I was doing. So like I didn't ever never finished the Doom series. I read up to like where the two kids become like super beings. I don't remember what Children of Doom. Maybe that's the last one I read. Whatever. Let's see. Are you interested in philosophy? Almost not at all. Um, philosophy doesn't really interest me that much. I mean, it's not that I guess I'm not like 100% disinterested, but it's not something that I like feel is useful for me to be into. I don't have anybody to talk to about philosophy, and like at this point, like I haven't really read up on anything recently since like college probably, so it's the kind of point where, what am I going to do with it? Even if I like was really interested in it, like I have nobody to talk to about philosophy, and I have no real like you know thing I benefit I can get out of it. So it's kind of like, well, I guess there's philosophy. Um, let's see. Question 4 here is, when you were learning Japanese, did you play any of the games to help you with the language? I played a lot of games when I was learning Japanese. And at first, I started out with Famicom games because you didn't have to know any kanji, but it was actually like really hard. And I had to always stop and look up words, and it was really slow paced. But it helped because, I got to see some kind of, like language use. And it got really like, you get really good at reading um, hiragana and katakana really quickly because like Famicom games are entirely that. So you get so much practice. And then like I moved up to other types of games. Like mostly it was just playing RPGs because it's a lot of reading, and it's the kind of games I like. So, I was playing a lot of Famicom stuff slowly, and then I was, as I started learning more kanji and stuff, I was getting better at that. So I would, I started working to play games where like I didn't have to use a dictionary all the time, and like because I could read more kanji normally, I went to more recent games. So like what I did basically, I was like using emulators for Famicom stuff, and then after I got better at it, I stopped using the emulators and I was just like playing PS2 games. And actually, Final Fantasy X was the first game I played without using a dictionary. Like I just played through the whole thing, and if I came across words I didn't know, I just inferred their meaning. It was basically the first game that I got through, and I felt like I understood exactly what happened without having to use a dictionary. Um, but yeah, games helped a lot with that, and there's some games help more than others, but you know, it was good practice at least. I mean, good reading practice. And some, if you have a game that's fully voiced, you have like better stuff going on where you have more kinds of you know uh, conversational things that will come up. I mean, obviously, if you're playing like a whacked out fantasy game, it's not going to help you as much. But if you're playing a game like the Yakuza series or something, you get a lot of kind of daily conversation stuff, even if it's just like not exactly the politest Japanese. It's helpful, and you can play if you were like really wanted to get a taste of kind of conversational things that's voiced. Like play some visual novels or something. It's probably easiest because usually if they're fully voice acted, then like it's just a ton of listening. But like I didn't just use games. I listened to movies and I read like manga and stuff because um you know that's kind of all you can do when you're like living in a country you don't know anybody. And it's not to say I didn't know anybody. When I moved here, I knew a few people, but most of them were off doing other things. So like, you start off and you have to kind of build up an entire friendship base again with new people. So, you initially you have a lot of time alone. But yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Question 5. Have you ever heard of Phantom Dust on the original Xbox? It has like an SMT vibe and it looks pretty cool. I've played Phantom Dust. It's probably it's probably the best game on the original Xbox. Not well, maybe that's a stretch, but it's one of the best games on the original Xbox. I can definitely say that. Um, it's the kind of game where like it was an online play game, so you basically you can still play it offline, but like all the coolest stuff you can get in that game is from online. So it's kind of worthless now. But I heard they're not. I mean, they were doing that reboot one, but I heard they might just do like an HD remaster of Phantom Dust, and even that would be cool because like at least you could get all of the online stuff again. and it would be worth playing, even if it were just an HD remaster. I would probably buy it. That, I mean, I don't have an Xbox One, but I don't know. Phantom Dust would be cool. And I was really excited for the reboot that when they showed that a new Phantom Dust was coming, and it subsequently got canceled. Like, I was really excited for that announcement, but I don't. I think that game is never coming, and really, it's probably for the better because the way that the canceled game, I mean, it looked cool, but like the way it was described made it sound like it was just like an online only kind of not going to be awesome, not like the original Phantom Dust. And yeah, so maybe it's better that it got canceled than came out as something that really disappointed me. So let's see. What are your thoughts on Kingdom Hearts? I know it's not a series you play, but I'm curious what you think of it. I am, you know, Kingdom Hearts came out at a time where I was just like really, really not interested. And I really don't like Disney. It's not like something I am a fan of. There's like almost nothing from Disney that I would be excited to see at this point. Um, and I used to have like this real um, dislike of Disney past a certain point. Like after Walt Disney died, like basically anything to do with the Disney company is shady as fuck after that. So like basically I don't want to support Disney in that way, like in a way that is, like all of their new stuff. Basically, I've seen none of it. When I was a kid, I watched old Disney stuff because like it's stuff your parents show you. But I've never seen like the last Disney movie I've seen was like maybe Little Mermaid, and we had it on video at my house. My sister watched it a lot, so I've seen it. But before that, I was watching stuff like Peach Dragon and stuff like that, and like Pinocchio and Snow White and the old Disney stuff. But yeah, I mean, and I've read a bunch of books about about like how shady Disney is too, which is like a weird topic. You'd think like, where are you gonna find that book? But you can easily find that stuff. And this is like I read when I was like in my teens, and I just thought like, fuck Disney. So I just never have been a huge fan of Disney after that. So like when I saw Kingdom Hearts, I thought like, well, it looks kind of like Final Fantasy X, which I thought was mediocre. And I know it's not like that, but when I saw it initially, I thought like, oh, it's like Final Fantasy, but with Disney shit in there. Well, okay, I'm kind of like not so excited about Final Fantasy anymore anyway, and I don't like Disney at all, so I'm not getting these games. And like when I look at them, I still think like I hate the character designs, and I dislike that there's tons of Disney crap in there. So it's just like not the kind of game for me. But I could see people like liking it, and I'm sure, and I'm like, I understand that Disney has a lot of fans and Disney is popular, and I think like if you like Disney, and I'm not saying like you shouldn't like Disney, but I personally don't. So it's just like the kind of thing like, why would I play that? Like I wouldn't expect anyone to like you know play a Lovecraft game if they didn't like horror. So like why would I play a Disney game if I don't like Disney stuff? It just doesn't make any sense to me. So I've never really gotten into um, any of the Kingdom Hearts games. Now, and here's I mean, next question: Have you ever played Call of Cthulhu: Dark Corners of the Earth on the original Xbox or PC? I have. I've talked about that game a bunch before, previously on this channel, I believe. At least I've talked about it in a podcast with Games of War. But I do. I mean, it's on the shelf behind me somewhere, and that's a really good game. I really like that game. I think it works really well because even though it's kind of a first person shooter, it's not. It doesn't play like one. It plays more like this first person kind of adventure, and sometimes you shoot stuff, but it's not that bad, and it kind of covers some scenes from the book really well. Like if you've ever played it, there's a scene like near the beginning of the game that's like taken directly from what's it called, Shadow over Innsmouth, where there's like the townspeople are breaking into the hotel room, and he's like barring the door and trying to like shove stuff in front of it. Like because I read the book, I kind of knew how to do that part already, It's kind of like the most frustrating part at the beginning of the game. It's probably the most frustrating part in the entire game, actually. The escape from the hotel room where the people are chasing after you, and it's right in the beginning. So I think a lot of people get shut off to that game right there because it's like such a big, jump in the kind of difficulty that you would have been playing up until that point. But that's a good game. If you can get past the hotel part, it's pretty much smooth sailing from there, and it's interesting. Um, I'm looking forward to a bunch of those Lovecraft games that are coming out. There's apparently a bunch of Lovecraft games coming in the next year or so, and I've like got them all. I don't remember all their names. They're just kind of like listed, and I'm gonna keep track of them every once in a while. But I'm excited for that. So let's see. Next question. What are some of your favorite strategy RPGs, and have you heard of Stella Deus? Um, let's see. Favorite strategy RPGs. Now, that's hard because, like, I play a lot of strategy RPGs. And it's hard also because it's hard. the Sometimes it's hard to pick out the difference between um, a strategy game and a strategy RPG. And it might sound weird, but like sometimes there's strategy games with a good story that aren't RPGs, and a lot of people will just consider them strategy RPGs, but they end up not being. Like, for example, XCOM is not a strategy RPG. It's really not. It's a strategy game, but it's not an RPG. Even though it has a story, it has characters that have like specific like roles. I guess I mean, it's very close, but it's not exactly. Whereas something like like Final Fantasy Tactics has specific character interaction where there's like playing a role instead of being just this type of character. You know what I mean? So it definitely has strategy RPG elements that make it enough to be an RPG. Um, but like the gameplay for those tend to be very similar. So if you've ever played just a strategy game, like even, I mean, it's easier to go back to like the world of 16 bits because you can basically a strategy game and a strategy RPG have the same general feel except for characters and story. So if you ever played Military Madness, I was just thinking the Japanese name. Military Madness on the TurboGrafx was a game I played a ton as a kid, and it's basically just a strategy game. There's no characters. There's various tanks and things, but it's like fighting on the moon and shit. And it's a pretty cool game, but it doesn't have like that much of a story. But if you've played any of the Gold Box games, the fighting system, like the battling, is very similar. I mean, you're on squares, you move your characters one at a time, and you can kind of attack from in a certain range depending on what kind of unit you are or what kind of attack you're doing. It's very similar. So it ends up being that, like, you know, strategy RPGs and strategy games tend to be very close. Um, and I don't remember what I was talking about when I was going into this delineation between these two types of games, but I'm sure I had something in mind, but I don't remember what it is. But my, I don't even remember what are my favorite strategy RPGs. I would go with the classic kind of Final Fantasy Tactics. These are one of my favorites. Um, but there's games like um, Majin Tensei, which is it's like a basically Fire Emblem with SMT stuff. That series is really good, and I mean, even Rondo, which is like on the Sega Saturn, even though it looks awful, still is essentially a solid game. Like the story is good, characters are good, it just looks so terrible that like people hate it so much. But it's part of the Majin Tensei series, really. So that's also a good series. I'm trying to think of some other strategy RPGs that I'm, like it's hard to pick that kind of thing because once you start like thinking about it, there's like basically all the gold box games are like every battle is a strategy battle, even though those aren't strategy RPGs. But like I guess if you were gonna consider strategy RPGs to be like those kinds of games that have like a set map where like you can maybe go along the map like in Final Fantasy Tactics or something where like each battle is its own map. I mean, and there's not a whole lot of in between there. Like maybe you can visit places on a map, or it just like goes directly into the next story. That kind of game is would narrow it down to choices at least. But I'm trying to think like what would be the what would be the best ones. Like it's hard to think about it because I tend to the stuff I like for those tend to be just like the hardest ones. And that sounds stupid, but like for strategy RPGs, like I get really really into them, and I think like once I get into stuff, I mean, I think this was kind of pointed out to me recently in one of my impressions videos, where maybe for Langrisser, and that's another series that I would recommend. The Langrisser series is a really good. Growlancer also is a good one. Um, all of those strategy series are really good, but John Dark is a good one. It's like one of the few level 5 games that I like. Um, I was just about to say make a point about something, but I forgot entirely what it was. Um, I was in the middle of something and I interrupted myself to talk about something else. And now I can't remember what I was supposed to talk about. I guess I could like rewind the video, but that would take too much work and editing later. So I'm not doing that. I'll just go to the next question. But just think about strategy RPGs. Oh wait, I forgot the second part of that. Have you heard of Stellar Days? I've heard of it, but I've never played it. Um, yeah, I don't. I think Games of War has maybe played that a bunch. I'm sure he. I'm sure. I think that's who I've heard about it from, but I haven't played it myself. Um, so let's see. I know you. Next question here is: I know you consider Persona 3 Portable the superior version overall, but I played the PS2 FES version or FES version 3 times now, and I just can't seem to get around the PSP version, no matter what I try. Have you tried afterwards the FES version? FES, I guess. I say FES because like I mean, even though like people are split, like say FES or FES version, like in the Japanese it's just FES. It's short for festival. Um, okay, and if so, did you complete the answer? Um, I completed the answer, but playing. I mean, I had to play through Persona. I played Persona 3 Portable first. No, wait, that's not true. I played Persona 3 and then I played Persona 3 Portable. And I thought, like, well, this is much better because you can control all the party members. Because, there's nothing more frustrating than having a plan and having it just ruined by the computer every time. That sucks. So, like, when you can get through that in Persona 3 Portable, it makes the game more fun. It just makes you feel like like if you died, it's your fault, not the fault of like random computer AI, which just does dumb stuff sometimes. Where you're just like, why would you do that? Now you've killed us. Thanks. That kind of stuff happens in Persona 3 that it doesn't happen in Persona 3 Portable. I mean, unless you're not controlling all the characters for some reason. But like so after I played Persona 3 Portable, I played Persona 3 FES. And it was hard. It's hard to kind of go back to not being able to control characters. It sucks when you once you have that option and then it gets taken away. You're just like, man, you never get over it. So it like leaves a bad taste in my mouth playing FES or FES, I guess, because it's it just feels like it could be awesome, but it's not. and that's stupid because like it's an awesome game regardless, but you always feel like, well, it could be more awesome, but they had to do this weird thing where you're not controlling the characters. And they knew that was a mistake because they fixed it in Persona 4. They didn't. I mean, they let you control the characters in Persona 4. I mean, it must have been like a major complaint from everybody. So let's see. So next to question 10, what are your reasons for being straight edge? In my case, I discovered that if I drink coffee or eat too many sweets, my eyes hurt when I'm playing games, especially on the DS or PSP, or when I try to read. Also, alcohol and drugs or cigarettes are out of the question. Um, yeah, I mean, really, I used to be like a shitty kid. I don't know what like. I've never really mentioned. I've never gave details on like all the shitty stuff that happened when I was a kid. But like, I wasn't like, you know, I like barely had any parental supervision, so it was the kind of thing where like I could just do whatever the fuck I wanted. And like when you're 14 and you just do whatever the hell you want, you just do stupid shit all the time. And I was basically like drinking hard liquor and shit every weekend with my friends, and like doing like just dumb shit. And like basically it got to a point where I was just like, man, what the fuck am I doing this for? It's not even fun anymore. It's just it just we're doing the same crap every time. It's not even like that great. And I just thought like, well, you know what? I'm just done. I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm just going to do whatever I'm going to do my own thing, and I'm not going to worry about this drinking or drugs or whatever that my friends were into. And I just thought like, well, I'm just done. That's it. And from that point, like I made a decision, and I just stuck to it since then. So I haven't. I've just been straight edge since then. And that's been, and that, I mean, it wasn't when I was 14 that I decided that. It was like when I was 16 or so. Um, but that's the kind of, that was like really the point, and I've just been that way since. Like I've never, and like people often ask, like, do you ever feel like tempted to drink or something? Like you're out at a bar with friends and everyone's drinking. Like, don't you ever feel like pressured or tempted to drink? And just no, never even thought about it. Never even, I've never once felt like, geez, I really should drink tonight, but I can't because of my moral convictions or something. I've never thought about it that way. I just think like I decided that I'm not going to do that, and that's what I'm not going to do. So I don't. And it's really simple, like it's the kind of thing where you just overall that it's something that's not good for you, and it's not going to not going to better you in any way to do that. So I just don't. And I think like that's kind of the easiest explanation as to why I've been straight edge for like 20 years. More than that now, I guess. More than 20 years. So yeah, next question. What was the most intense slash awesome gaming experience you ever had? I don't know. Um, you know what? One of the most fun times I had was playing the original Silent Hill with um, my friend well, actually, the Tom who does the wrestling podcast with me was there, and our friend Shane who was um, dating the girl who went into the UFO cult. We played that game together, and we're like just hanging out playing Silent Hill, and it was like so good because like we were all really into it, and and they would have like crazy reactions, and like crazy shit happens in Silent Hill, so you're just like kind of running through, and then like crazy shit happens, and everyone's like, oh my god, crazy. And then like we're watching it, and it was kind of just a great experience. But I think like it wouldn't have been a great experience if I was doing it by myself. And I think that's like one of the good things about games is that like you can get this kind of shared experience with people that you know, and it's like less now because you're doing it online or you're not doing it at all in some cases. But previously, when you could do that kind of thing, you could experience something like the craziness of the like Silent Hill, and like it's kind of deadened now. Like you wouldn't be able to play Silent Hill 1 now and get the same kind of reaction because of all the stuff that's come after it. But like at that point, there was nothing really like it. It was, and we didn't really know what to expect. And when you go into it like that with people, and everybody has this same kind of like shocked reaction or something to something that you weren't expecting, it's really more of a kind of a cool bonding experience. And you can get that out of other stuff too. Um, you know, just like stupid stuff. You could be playing like how many time, how long can you survive at a 5-star rating in Grand Theft Auto 3? That kind of stuff. Like it's and like that doesn't sound like a hot game, but like when you do it with 5 people, it's great. So, it's always going to be that kind of thing. And I don't think, and that's not to say that like I haven't had any cool experiences with other games, and I just think that like most of the most memorable ones at least are going to be with other people, and mostly because those other people are there. And so you think like, it's got to be this awesome story gaming experience, but actually it's like a lot of my favorite memories are just like sitting in somebody's house in the summer and playing like Romance of the Three Kingdoms 3 with 3 other people. That's kind of it. You're just like, wow, this is a lot of fun. And it's great because like you'll get moments where like people will invade other people in the room and stuff, and it gets tense. And that kind of stuff is great. So that game is really interesting. But I don't know. That's where all my I think my feelings for that kind of stuff come in. So question 12. If I'm going to visit Japan one day, would you want to hang out? Sure. Other people have come to Japan and I've hung out with them. I'm not against that unless you're like a creep or something. You're gonna like try to molest me or something. I don't know why you would, but if you're not gonna stab me and like try and steal my money or something, that's cool. But I mean, you don't seem like a weirdo. In text, I guess. Um, you know, so like generally, I'm up for meeting people if they come to Japan. It's not like I'm not like I'm not like a dude on a pedestal up high. Um, I'm just like a random dude on YouTube sitting on his couch with taking video with his phone. Like, yeah, if you want to hang out, that's cool. So yeah, that's questions from Jolly Good. We're gonna move on to somebody else has got questions. Jake DW25 has let's see, 3 questions. Question 1: What happened to the CXG podcast? Will it make a comeback? I loved it. Um, the CXG podcast is technically not gone. Um, it's it's just the kind of thing where it's hard for Josh and I to coordinate a time together where like we're both like on point for doing a podcast, and we both have a schedule that matches, and we both have like the drive to do it. So, you know, even when we were doing the CXG podcast, like we were always saying like, "Oh man, we're gonna do them regularly," and then like something would come up where like Josh would switch jobs or something, and then it was just like, "Well, we can't do it on the same day anymore, so now we're fucked. We can't do it." And that, or like, we, there was a point where I was really sick, and then like we couldn't do it then. And then there was other points where just like we'd set up a time, and then one of us would like forget or not show up or whatever for any reason, and then like we just wouldn't record. And then, it's been so long now that you know it's hard to come back, but it's not really though. I mean, Josh and I have talked about doing more pretty recently, not like within the past few weeks, but like within the past few months at least. And I'd like to do more. I like Josh. I like talking with him, and I actually don't talk to him as much as I used to. probably because we don't do the podcast that much, but like we used to talk a bunch on Skype, and recently, like he's been away from YouTube for a while, busy with other stuff too. So it's just hard to get everything together. I mean, but yeah, I'd like to. I mean, could make a comeback. It's not impossible. I like doing it. I like talking with Josh too. So it's that kind of thing where it's just easy. And there's like been plenty of times where Josh and I will set out to do a podcast and we'll just get on Skype and we'll just start talking and then we'll just like not record anything because we spent 2 hours talking about other shit that we probably should have recorded. That kind of stuff happens too. It's just, it's easy to get caught up on other stuff. So let's see. Question 2. What are your favorite genres for literature and what are a few of your favorite books? This has been a book heavy thing, and not even by not by design. It just happened to be 2 book questions. But favorite genres of literature, obviously horror is one, but I like sci-fi a bit, not a ton. I don't read a ton of that. Fantasy I like a little bit, but usually dark fantasy, I guess. And then I like your kind of standard literary fiction, lit fic, I guess. um, but like, it's harder to find good stuff for that. Because there's a lot of it. It's you kind of have to like know people who know about it, or just like wade through the garbage until you find good stuff, and that's not impossible. Um, but I don't know. A few of my favorite books. Whew, I'm trying to think of. I'm gonna think of books that I would recommend, but like that's a hard one too because um, I tend to like short story collections more than full books. So I mean, I would recommend like I want to say like you should read the Books of Blood by Clive Barker if you like horror because it includes like one of my favorite short stories ever, like not just by Clive Barker, but just ever, is a story in there called "In the Hills, the Cities," and that's like one of my favorite stories. It's just so different and kind of original, and I mean, obviously, it okay. If you haven't read it and you're just like, I should read that, I'm gonna go look at it now. There is kind of gay sex in it, but like it's incidental, like it's not part of the main, it's not a main part of the story, but it's in there. So if like that kind of stuff creeps you out, you're probably not going to enjoy the story. But like you could skip that part and just go right to the horror part, which is great. The story for that is just such a good story. But the whole Books of Blood have so many good stories in there. But that I mean, but some of my like one of my favorite books is gonna be like the Wind Up Bird Chronicle by Haruki Murakami. That one and what is it called? Hardboiled Wonderland and the End of the World are both really good stories, and like I think those have affected the way I write and the things I write about in a different way than like a standard horror would. And I like that. I like the I mean I like his short stories too. I've read like all of Murakami's books. They're all really good. Um, and they're all like I don't know what the genre would be. I guess they're literary fiction, but like they're not really. I mean, they're kind of weird fiction. Um, they're science fiction in a lot of cases. It's a little strange. It's not like your standard kind of story. There is a lot of weird kind of magical realism going on in those. I'm trying to think of some more books that I would really recommend to people. Um, of course, I would recommend like Lovecraft, but all his stuff is short stories, so it's kind of there's not really a book. I mean, any collection. I mean, there's many. I'm gonna take a drink here. I guess I could look on my shelf. Um, See, the books on my shelf suffer from the same problem with um, my games is that they're double layered, so like I can't see them all. And plus, I have so many more in that I just it's hard to remember all the books you've read and all the without having them on the shelf to be like, oh yeah, that I remember reading that. But um, let me think. Let me think. There must be a couple more books I can recommend. I mean, um, there's this. There's a great book actually that I've read um, called. Oh, it's got a really long name. I'm gonna try to. It's something like this. It might not. This might not be the exact name. It's like we regret to inform you that tomorrow we will be killed with our families, and it's a nonfiction book about the Rwandan genocide, and it's like harrowing. It's like one of the most like memorable books I've read, just because of like how fucked up everything that happened was. And you read it and you're just like, wow, what the hell? And it's like this comedy of errors that led to like 400,000 people being hacked apart mostly by machetes. Like imagine that. Imagine like the kind of thing you would go through if you were like killing people. Killing somebody is enough, like, but killing someone with a gun is like entirely different from like killing people with a machete. You're gonna be like up in someone's face, hacking them in the head with that to kill someone. That's brutal. And like on the huge scale of it in Rwanda was like amazing. Um, it's just like jaw dropping, harrowing is like the easiest way to explain it. And that book is really good. It's not literature though. It's like it's nonfiction. And yeah, I don't know. Let's see. The question three: what is the plot of the RPG you've written? That's hard because I wrote um, the game I described earlier is kind of a strategy RPG, but the plot of it changes depending on what choices you make in the game, and the entire story changes to a different story depending on which line you take in the game. So think of it as like a strategy RPG with like five branching paths that lead to entirely different stories. So it's the game itself has five total stories, but some of them are shorter than others, and some of them are longer. But they generally the game is kind of a it doesn't have a one consistent story. It's kind of like if you do this at this point, you're going to go off into this entirely different game that's like has entirely different stages, entirely different characters, an entirely different plot. Um, it's made that way because I thought, it's more interesting to have a game that you can replay multiple times and get something entirely new out of. Not something like, for example, even if you've played Fire Emblem, the latest Fire Emblem, and you played all three parts, like the difference between those three parts is like, they're using the same maps and the same characters show up all the time, and it's like not entirely like this. It doesn't entirely feel like a special kind of thing. Hold on, I got a message on my screen. I'm gonna clear. But yeah, there's like, and I thought like when I make this game, I want it to feel like your choices matter to the point where like you're cutting yourself off from an entirely different reality in the game if you do something. Not like, you get to this part and you're only deciding like, oh, maybe this character will die and this character will live. This kind of decision. I wanted to be like, if you choose this, you're going to go off on this entirely different adventure and the tone will be different. Or, you go over here and it's going to be some entirely different thing, not with the same people. And I thought like that makes it more interesting to me because like even though like each scenario would be short, if you played the entire game, you'd have, you know, say like each scenario was 10 battles or something. Just like that's not a lot for a strategy RPG, but if you have five, five storylines with ten battles, that's 50. That's basically a standard strategy RPG. And the idea for that came from actually a visual novel that I played called Kamai Tachi no Yoru. It's like one of the first visual novels, and it's on the Super Famicom. But in that game, you can get like these, you can go through the game and there's like all these stories that are unrelated to the original story. Like you'll go through and there's like this kind of murder mystery thing going on. But then if you play through it again, you can get these things where it turns into like this psychic investigation where there's like psychics and things and it's like totally a different story. Or you can select another one where you can just like, you know, like, you know, I'm going to take the first train in the fuck offsville and I'm gone. Like you can get endings that way. And I thought like, oh, that's really cool because like playing this game again after the first time makes no sense because like why do you want to just see the same story again? But actually if you play it again, you can get something entirely different. And I thought like that's a really good idea. It makes, you know, it would be cool if somebody did an RPG like that. So that's the kind of way I designed the RPG I wanted to use. So that's 3 questions. Thanks for those. And we got more questions here, and I'm going to try to go through these all, but I'm at the start. There's not a lot, but God knows it's from Sega CD Universe again, and I'm going to be looking at these, and I'm going to think like, Jesus, I can't believe I'm answering these questions from this guy. But Sega CD Universe is back with more questions, and I'm going to answer them hopefully within 9 minutes before this video goes over an hour. Okay. So the first question I told him I would leave it in so I could make fun of him. This can be in the video or just a comment is fine. I loved Wasteland 2 and its old classic strategy RPG feel. Did you play it? Also, are you interested in Divinity Original Sin, sort of in the same vein but medieval? This is probably my next purchase. I left this in because Mike has asked me this like 3 times and I've answered him 3 times, but like I've made a video where like Wasteland 2 was my top game of the year, and then like after that he asked me if I had played it, and then I was like, yeah. But I commented on his video to him talking about him playing it, with me playing it, and he asked me if I played it, and then like, and this is the third time. This is the third time he's asked me. So like I left it in here because he knows he realized after that he had already asked me this, but I told him I would leave it in so I could make fun of him. And Divinity Original Sin is a game that I am interested in, but I don't have it. I'd like it. But there's a lot of games, there's more coming out that I'm more interested in. Like when, what's it called? The new Planescape-esque game. What is it? Maybe it's Torment? Plains of Numenaria or something. That's coming out on the PS4 and the PC and maybe Xbox One, I don't know. But I'm going to get that. And I think that's right up my alley because I like the Planescape game, and I played that pretty recently again. That's a pretty good game, and I'm waiting for that game. I'm hoping it comes out and it's exciting. So if I see Divinity somewhere, I probably will get it. I've seen people playing it, and I thought like, oh, that's definitely something I'd like. Let's see. So here's a workout question because I'm gun show over here. But no, how much weight do you use, reps, sets, etc., and what kind of exercises? That's a lot because I really don't do a lot. If I can go through it in my head, like I usually do like bench presses, rowing, and like butterfly presses. I don't know what they're called. And I usually don't use a lot of weight. So like basically I do lower weight, but lower weight and higher reps. So I tend to do 3 sets of 15, and I'll do like bench pressing 3 sets of 15 at like, I'm trying to do quick conversions in my head from kilos to pounds. Maybe like 110 pounds or something at 15 reps times 3. So, and then I'll do like, the rowing, I do like, I don't know, like 50 pounds or something. And then I'll do, well, it's 50 pounds on each arm. And then, you'll do like butterfly presses, like, 70 pounds maybe. And it's not like that's not like my maximum or anything. Obviously, like I can bench press more than 110 pounds, but like it's the kind of thing where like I'm not lifting for strength. I'm just lifting for size, I guess. And it's not like I want to get big. It's just that I want to get like toned. So I'm just trying to work with the tone, I guess. And then if you have obviously like you have to have some muscle to have tone. So like the bigger the muscle, I don't care if I'm strong or not. It's not a big issue for me. So that's what I'm kind of doing. And then like I do, shoulders and curls with like shoulder presses on a machine. So you're lifting like this. I'm doing like 60 pounds or something, and then I'll do curls, I guess, at what is it, like 30 pounds maybe. And then I do, like legs. I do leg stuff, so I'll do occasionally I do squats at like 200 pounds, maybe 220 pounds. Like I'm doing 100 kilos. So 220 pounds it's for squats, or like leg presses, not squats, because the squats I don't do as much weight. Um, and then what else? I'm trying to think of like I do um, like thigh presses. I don't know what they're. I don't know. Thigh extensions, thigh presses. Maybe there's two things that I'm doing there that I do at like let's see, about 130 pounds, just for leg stuff, and then I run on a treadmill for uh, like I don't know, 30 minutes or so. I do like high intensity interval training on the treadmill. That's about it though. I mean, I don't do a ton of stuff. It's overall takes like an hour to hour and a half. I mean, like an hour. It's like an hour of weight training, and then I do like half an hour of running. So that's about it. It's not like, I mean, it's not. I'm not super buff or anything. I'm just like mildly toned. You can totally see my abs if I take my shirt off. But other than that, like, no, I don't. I mean, I don't. I'm not like trying to be a bodybuilder. But let's see. Next question. Watchmen is my favorite superhero movie. Thought provoking with dark and interesting characters. Have you seen it? I've seen Watchmen, and I've read Watchmen, the original Watchmen comic. I really like Watchmen. And I like Watchmen the movie too, even though people shit on it. Like I think it's really good. I like watching. I've watched it multiple times, and I think like I just can't hate it. I think it's so good. And I've been meaning to pick up the extended edition because I've never seen the extended edition. So I should pick up that Blu-ray actually. But I really like Watchmen. Have you read the Watchmen comics? Like I saw that they came out with a bunch of like before Watchmen comics, and I've seen them in Japanese, but I haven't read them. So like I'm wondering if like those are good and if I should buy them. So let's see. So, next question is: have you made any friends in your new apartment complex or acquaintances? Like, I've literally seen nobody who lives here. I know they exist because I can sometimes hear them, and I can hear people going in and out of their doors sometimes, but I've never actually run into anybody. So I don't even know who lives here. It could be like entirely a team of models or something. I'd never know because I never see anybody. Um, I think like it's not though because like I know that whoever lives next to me smokes on their balcony, but like there's a divider, so I couldn't even see them if they were out there, and I was out there at the same time. Um, yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen anybody, so I haven't had a chance to meet anybody either. And the last question from old Vampire Mike from Sega CD Universe is: how is the pizza in Japan? Pizza, what's the what is the tipping like compared to the 20% in the U.S. norm? Pizza in Japan is good, but it's not great. And if you are from like I'm from Connecticut, and there's like a huge Italian population there. So like when I think of pizza, it's like I have a very specific kind of idea of what pizza is like. And that's not to say that like other types of pizza are bad, because like I dig the occasional Chicago pizza, even like those giant deep dish pizzas, or like a big New York pizza or something like that. But man, there there's like a real divide between like what is good pizza and what is bad pizza. And if you live in like the Midwest or something, you probably never had a good pizza before. Like you've had either chain pizza or garbage, and that's almost synonymous. But in Japan, there's a lot of kind of interesting pizza. Like you'll get like your corn and mayonnaise pizza or whatever. And I think like there's kind of like all these weird flavor combinations for pizza that is like strange. You get like all these weird flavors, and it ends up being good sometimes. So I feel like Japanese pizza is more like California pizza, like that kind of thin, crispy crust. It's like that, and it's not bad. I don't dislike it. It's just like, you know, there's always some kind of like bizarre combination of stuff on the pizza, and I can appreciate that. So pizza is good, but tipping in Japan is non-existent. There's no tipping. There's no tipping for anything. I can't think of a situation where you'd have to tip anybody. So there's no tipping. So compared to 20% in the U.S., it's 0% in Japan. So I guess Japan wins, but except for like the general cost for everything is way expensive anyway, though. So if you were like, how much is a large pizza? It's like thirty to $40. That's a kind of a large chunk of money. So I'd rather pay less, $20 for a large pizza and pay a tip, than like $35 for a large pizza and not pay a tip. But, there's options, I guess. There's options for cheaper pizza, but if you want something good, you're going to have to pay. Like all things, I guess. So that's it. We're over an hour here. Thanks to Vampire Mike driving me over an hour. But yeah, I'll be back when I can, have the willpower to talk more for another hour about questions. And in the meantime, if you've got more questions, just leave them below and I will answer them, add them to the list. But currently, I'm looking at the list here, and we appear to be about 80% done. So that means I could probably finish this if I don't get a lot more questions, in 3 more videos, maybe? Maybe. So, but I doubt it. It'll probably be 4 to 5 more videos, just based on the kind of rate that questions come in. So this is still going. So I'll see you guys in the next Q&A video, and maybe some other type of video soon. So see you later. I guess I'll talk to you then, or if you have questions, comment them. So I'll see you.